Welcome to Keep the Faith Ministry. Keep the Faith brings you timely messages with in-depth spiritual analysis of current events in light of Bible prophecy, so you can prepare for the coming of Jesus. Listen to what the news won't tell you. Here is another important message for our times. This is Pastor Hal Mayer. During the last weekend of March 2007, there was a great celebration in Berlin marking the 50th anniversary of the Treaty of Rome. The treaty was the basis of the European Economic Community, which is today the European Union. Though not publicly stated, the purpose of the original 1957 treaty was to begin the process of resurrecting the Holy Roman Empire. Rome was appropriately chosen as the place where the treaty was signed, probably because Rome was seen as the historical place where the cultural and religious values of Europe had their center in past ages. The party in Berlin, which included beer and bratwurst, fireworks and all-night discos, afforded the opportunity for the public to distract themselves on the eve of March 25, the 50th birthday of the Treaty of Rome, while events in another part of Berlin secretly began the process of selling their souls. Let us open our Bibles to the 14th chapter of Revelation, verses 9 and 10. This is the third part of the three angels' messages of Revelation 14. Let us read it. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast in his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, and in the presence of the Lamb. The Scriptures teach us that there is a conspiracy underway to destroy God's faithful people, and make it impossible for them to live in the normal way if they don't receive the mark of the beast. But ultimately, those who comply with Rome's demands to worship in her way will receive the wrath of God. They will burn in the lake of fire to which Rome is destined as well. In the meantime, however, Rome is seeking ascendancy in the West, and particularly in Europe. Rome has long sought to reestablish popery on the European continent. Cardinal Ratzinger, now Pope Benedict XVI, said that today's EU should acknowledge a common imperial ideal, reported GermanForeignPolicy.com, August 29, 2006. What is a common imperial ideal? That's referring to an empire with its monarchical rule. Europe's commonness is not in its language, its politics, or its perspective. The only historical commonness that spans all of modern Europe is its common religious connection to the papacy. Benedict's comment essentially means that he wants Europe to return to its former ecclesiastical empire. Benedict wants Europe under papal rule again. Islam claims to own any geographical property she has ever conquered. So does Rome. Rome claims the right to rule Europe because at one time, from the 6th century to the Reformation and the French Revolution, Rome controlled the Holy Roman Empire. Ever since the deadly blow she received to her power in 1798 during the Wars of Napoleon, Rome has been working steadily and stealthily to regain control again. The deadly wound is in the process of being healed, as Revelation 13:3 predicts. While the German public was rockin' and rollin' last March, other infinitely more important events were taking place in Berlin. In the German Historical Museum, a signing ceremony was taking place. European leaders from all over Europe came to Berlin to witness the signing of what is known as the Berlin Declaration. There is a battle going on for the soul of Europe between the Pope and Europe's secularists, who want to divorce Europe from its Catholic religious heritage that dominated Europe for over 1,200 years. EUBusiness.com reported that beneath the veneer, and despite serving as a model of integration to the world, EU leaders battled to conclude a declaration that can mark past achievements and reassure citizens about the future. In 2006, the EU Commission President José Manuel Barroso hinted at the epic struggle going on in Europe over the destiny of the European Union. In a speech in June, he said that the forthcoming Berlin Declaration must be a restatement of Europe's values, wrote the European Parliament News on June 22. Barroso also said that he wanted all 27 member nations to sign the declaration together as a collective act of will. Barroso was already then, apparently, attempting to let the nations of the Union know what was expected of them at the upcoming Berlin meeting, and pressure them to join the coalition and continue building the new empire. Coming up to the 50th anniversary celebrations of the European Union, it may have seemed to many onlookers that everything was in readiness to take the EU one step closer to a European constitution, which has been the goal of the EU Commission President and his allies in Germany, led by German Chancellor Angela Merkel. But instead of a ringing political statement of unanimity and progress toward a new Europe, controlled by a central government in Brussels, something else happened that has the potential to do much more damage, leading to control by the Vatican in Rome. Remember that the Word of God tells us that the beast power of the medieval papacy will rise again. The deadly wound will be healed, and all the world shall wonder after the beast. That means that Europe will once again come under the control of the Vatican, while other nations such as the United States and other Western nations like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand perhaps will copy Rome's principles and follow her lead. Instead of moving forward toward a mature EU constitution as the Chancellor and the Commission President and others had planned, the Berlin Declaration was gutted of one of its most critical issues, the one that is perhaps the most important to the Vatican, the one that would again provide the Pope with the keys to Europe's soul, a reference to its Christian roots, meaning Roman Catholic roots. The trouble is, political union is difficult in Europe, and European leaders know it. Yet they continue to press their agenda even if it means cramming the new level of control down the throats of member nations. With so many nations that have differing and often competing interests, it is very difficult to get unity in the Union. Every attempt at solidifying the control of Brussels is met with one problem or another that prevents it. Perhaps the prophetic point here is that it isn't Brussels, the political power, that is the center of the jigsaw puzzle. It is Rome, the religious power. Make no mistake about it, Rome is working very hard at positioning itself to make this a reality. The Vatican is manipulating the politics of Europe vigorously to that end, but it hasn't happened yet. Perhaps the angels are still holding back the winds of strife by slowing down the progress of Europe's predicted return to power. The Berlin Declaration had to be toned down before the signing meeting in Berlin on March 25, in order to appease member nations that have significant concerns about the direction of the EU, specifically the spiritual direction. Remember that the Treaty of Rome in 1957 was signed in Rome as a commemoration of the historical religious roots of Europe. The EU Constitution of 2004 was signed in Rome also, and for the same reasons. It was later rejected by French and Dutch voters in national referendums, placing the whole concept of a European constitution in jeopardy. But Europe remains divided between Romanism and secularism, which is limiting the ability of the bureaucrats in Brussels to reimpose the Catholic central government over Europe. But in a move sure to ignite controversy, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who was the prime mover behind the Berlin Declaration, switched procedures on the signatories. Originally, the declaration was to be signed by all the heads of the EU member states. But Chancellor Merkel, who was the reigning president of the EU at the time,